You know, I had some notoriety in that space. I did not learn of Essex Hemphill's work or other countries in that space. It wasn't until I came to HIV work and that I began
All
to
right.
get immersed in that history. And something about that day, it felt like the creative space and world that I had already been passing through, and then the HIV/AIDS work. It was just like a kaleidoscopic collision. So it is my immense joy to be here, and I wouldn't exist, and nor would this work exist without other countries. Okay. Um, Kevin said I had 45 minutes. I don't know who told Kevin to give a poet 45 minutes. That's so dangerous for everyone. But I'm going to try to keep us running. Everywhere Alien is a big book. And I live with the tension, especially now that it's out, and reading of there's so many different levels or layers in it. And it's on one level, I need to sell books. On another level, I wish to share kind of the range of it. I am hopeful that today I'll get a little bit more opportunity to share the range of it. Okay. I'm just going to highlight some of the themes, and then we're going to get to going. So part of the book is dealing with time and place, indigeneity, and identity. Other part is also dealing with Blackness, Black culture, and Black bodies. Who gets to legitimately claim these domains? Desire functions like a sorcery and a gravity, I think, through it. And I'll give you some taste of that. And in a fundamental way, I am chronicling 5 overlapping underground movements in New York City, which is the New Black Arts Movement. The New Black Arts Movement is folks like Mos Def, Yassine Bey, Saul Williams, Erykah Badu, Sarah Jones, Lisa, Jesse Peterson. These are my peers. So that's the context in which I came to poetry. And the HIV/AIDS artivist community and the New York ballroom scene, the house and dance music community, and the Black Rock Coalition. So those are the 5 overlapping underground movements that I'm chronicling, and you'll hear some of that here. Also, with respect to my identity, we are contending with manhood, its construction, its contestation, its fluidity. And then there, what I call the metaphysics of Blackness. And so you'll hear some of that. So that's just a very broad context. And now I'm gonna read. The first piece is called Score, a sonnet turned out on the low. Pull up, no tag, no rules. Exploit, low light, eye bait, lasers come, magnets. The ardent hunt for consent in the hot rod hazard light and the half unbuckled pant waist. The denizens flood the movie house, arms, gambits, spent black and milds, poppers, Christian Dior cologne, lube. Men blame for gaff they would never have asked for. Touched, hugged, belonged to needs requiring mouths to confess in the absence of scripture and speech. Backs hold, nipples tuft, somewhere between want and murmur. The OG, the new brand, the down south, the wild card, peacock, the new issue, lift hoods, switch gears, oils change, seats buff, chassis bend, buckle, bruise, and replace. Day trade, doormen, church queens, the girls, first brothers, hood rats, middle sons, bitch niggers, construction workers bow out uniforms, suspend their claims, abandon titles to wives, deeds, worlds, heads bow where penance begs in braille. Sesame opens, seed disavows all priors. 80s porn, pantomime, soundtrack, a chorus loses score, rides the staccato against the back wall, filled with late matinee lore. Vintage future. The kisses we remember us first. At 90% water, most pronouns suffer from inexperience. I fish for the human beings. Ocean floor of Club La Boy, Copacabana, Rio de Janeiro. Discovered a freestyle samba, homeless in my waist. Each step Velcro and wet took to hers. We transgendered, embodied a language shot hot from the hip. We did not speak until we swallowed the same tongue in the upstairs bathroom. I have grown up in New York City Michelin star kitchens where manners are never welcome to dinner. Chefs have thrown bowls at my head, then asked me to leave. My bloodline peaks of Scotch bonnet from the Caribbean Sea. The fish fly after they walk on the water down there. I did not leave. Cast iron beneath a high noon sun. Protest is my birthright, sculpted out of stone. Are you fucking stupid? Why should I have to pronounce a sentence like, do not throw a bowl at my head unless you have thought through all the damned consequences? My Ivy League education notwithstanding, most niggers bleed Negro. Plus, Ivy League sucks dick, and not that well. You want me to suck your dick? Wee, chef. I thought this was what we were already doing. I will show you how it is done with abandon. Leave you post-hot to your unrivaled vices. Teachable moments oblige no follow-up conversation. Water is a master denominator. Black and white come out in the wash. Why all this so-called progress to color TV? Ain't we stuck in syndication inside an analog American dream? I pray the fantasy ends with a strong Wi-Fi signal and no need for a wire hanger. Antenna. Kisses. See you at the end of the show. War of the Drones. Best lovers. are hacks, patient, determined, meticulous. Firewalls and graffiti bombs inspire their own transgressions. We code in open source in Gotham, share only the retroviruses. Interborough corporal commune, sidewalk, peep show, surveillance, satellite tech serve on 23rd Street, at Chelsea's edge where most apples bite or bottom. 1 and 2s go good with 0s and 1s and threesomes. 0 is the beginning of everything. The absence of secrets and power is freedom. Google is the last failed democracy. United Nations is always in session. You can feed the whole world on Twitter, Grindr, Tumblr, Tinder, Instagram. We're naked is the new normal. Avatars concuss and forget how to reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. Hyperspace has already been colonized in the outer boroughs. We, the only humans left in the shadows of the sun, face to face, we will save Earth from the drones. Next 2 poems, I'm gonna kind of be chronicling some underground culture. The pieces are called Indigenous and Barclay Center, the day before, the day after tomorrow. The Indigenous. Balls deep in the Flatbush extension. We was born again inside a Jacob Lawrence painting, north of the Mason-Dixon line. Jan Rodriguez, the Dominican love child of a Portuguese sailor and an African woman, is the first verifiable non-Indian to take up residence on Manhattan Isle. Somehow no word obtains for a world of melanin-scarred babies conceived at the back door of consent. Who then are the natives? The ones who give the boroughs its staples. The Lenape who slashed and burned. The ones they slashed and burned, whose offerings we remember. Their sacrifice won't to forget. Pushaw squash, rabbit, beaver, prickly pear, popped amaranth, epizodiol, smoked cottonwood leaf quail, yucca fruit, bitter acorn, blue corn, and bare root, Domino's sugar, Greg Tate, Junior's cheesecake, Ray's famous pizza, Roti, Juve, and the Puerto Rican Day Parade, Maduro's, Black Rock Coalition, matzo ball, pastrami, and hot corn soup. Sweet Mother of God, Madonna does not know how to vogue. Sidewalks echolocate eggshell Adidas and beatbox cheekbones. Wu-Tang, Vernon Reed, Living Color, Tamara, Sandra St. Victor, Sophia Ramos, The Family Stand, Patti Smith, Biggie Smalls, Soul, Sonic, Force. Tables turn, whip, R&B, ABBA, Afrobeat, and the conga into stiff beats. Dub beats break rock in a paradise garage. Larry Levan's dance floor wraps concrete round its rhythm. Iron horses teeter, totter, and screech with high-gloss hormones and heat. Post-pubescent seesaw, quick rich traps, rough landings. Ambition correlate with rent parties. Slow money run, the Wall Street laundromat, pockets pick. The hard-won grit oiled into afros, red-lit inflated egos of would-be matadors. The ear down here is a freestyle cipher streaming lyrics onto the droplets of mothers' dreams. The free train is a river, run free in Brooklyn, fed every day by the blood of living and dead gods, daughters, and sons, dreams wet with want, perish the future every day. This is Barclays Center. This is like a portrait of the scene. The New Black Arts Movement was centered in Brooklyn. There were two venues: the Sunday Tea Party, which was at Frank's Lounge, and the Brooklyn Moon Cafe. And the Sunday Tea Party was every Sunday upstairs at Frank's, which could be canonized as a dive bar. However, it was open mic every week and a house party. And in that, it's in that space where I would say the geography of the culture that I became immersed in was fully present. So we had the poetry and the music and the arts. We had the house and dance music community, the Black Rock Coalition. So for example, the person who started it, Ian Friday, he's a DJ. And if you check out Carib's Leap, that's a portion of his work as a DJ. He's, gone on to be himself in the world. He's amazing. But I quickly realized that I'm in a space where the inheritances of the Black Rock Coalition, the house and dance music community are all present. These are who I'm dancing with and sharing space. So this kind of chronicles some of that. It's called Barclays Center, the day before the day after tomorrow. New moon. What a honeymoon. Bang, zoom, straight to the moon, Alice, to the moon. The Nets at Barclays, a lesson learned. Jay-Z's borough cannot be owned. Brooklyn brewed, thick-lipped and bold. Barbara Streisand, Jackie Robinson, Sean Carter, Christopher Wallace. Fulton Street and Eastern Parkway's treasure map. A tributary ambled through a borough shorn and uncrumbled by eminent domain. A quarry of fans fused over Dodgers' heartbreak at Ebbets Field, and an end of summer 1991 race riot between the Blacks and the Jews. A park at Prospect shoulders Flatbush Avenue's thick neck. A museum, a botanical garden, a library after Labor Day's Caribbean parade. A grand army plaza of monuments and gazebos nurse the diaspora in their marble, stone, and weathered brass Latin. A turn north runs you to the scalp of the Manhattan Bridge, and a sea of change barely holds on to histories come and gone, lives and loves lost and found. Waxing Crescent. 1995, under cover of day, we landed at an Atlantic corner circa 4th Ave. A Requiem harbor sat at the Northeast outpost to Spike Lee's 40 Acres and a Mule. I remember Frank's Lounge, Cecil Taylor, Erykah Badu, Sunday Tea Party, Mos Def, Jessica Care Moore, Saul Williams, Sarah Jones, Brooklyn Moon Cafe. I remember Talib Kweli, Carmen Renee, Tish Benson, Universes, Wood Harris, Franz de Seuss, Lisa Jessie Peterson, Shelley Nicole, Natasha Diggs, Shaki, Mums the Schemer, Imani Uzuri, Marcia Jones, Carl Hancock Rux, Jasiri, Pierre Benu, Kimbali, Suhair Hamad, Takala, Soul, Ra Goddess, Jua Kali, Stacey Ann Chin. First quarter. 1996, Erica, me, my words, her throat, a drum, on stage at Nuyorican Poets Cafe. Her living room hung atop a Mashud storefront at Fulton Street in South Portland. The brown baked early afternoon Fort Greene sun oiling her parquet floor. The toe of incense and hair wrapped tall, dreams piled high. I remember those eyes. Rehearsals rehearse themselves, don't they? Wassing Gibbous. 1998, Most popped up at my house party, 452 Washington Avenue between Park Place and Classen. 2001, 1 o'clock afternoon, long after the Black Star had shot to the moon. On Bergen Street, just off Flatbush, a blowgun shot away from the old Nkiru books where Talib used to clerk and help run Mrs. Miller's Black-owned bookstore. Talib called my name from across the street. I crossed. We smiled, whole-bodied. My heart jumped up in my chest, not because Talib called my name, because I heard sprung from his larynx the blitzkrieg history of how he knew, how we knew my name and sundry others was worthy of being called. Insert your name here, full moon. Names, insert yours here. Names, insert yours here. Names, Canopy, the Kings County, agnominal rainforest, born decades before dead letter hashtags, try on for size, to necklace the remembered and the forgotten, conceived inside a virtual terroir. Names, insert yours here. Names, insert yours here. Names come and came, danced and drenched. Names spun and sang and prayed. Names kissed and brushed and loved and laughed and leaned and learned. Names wrote, painted and praised and offered up with joy their instruments in the feeding of our collected sky. Waning Gibbous. We, the living and the dead, the well-lived and the passed on, will all find our way to the mothership. That Barclays sand, by way of its dark matter underground. They will call it the reconvening, all 19,000 seats of Noah's Ark constructed atop the old train yard, exoskeleton, splayed in the palate of our ancestors. Still, our brown stone rust rinses the rain. Afro-roots ride or die. Their proceed will outpace these hipster high-rises in this new Mammon town. Remember, third quarter. They built the city atop us, never knew we were here until Scuttlebone would give up its marrow. Pep, Franz Simpson, my friend, one of the greatest visual artists ever not known, were as if this world in real time refused to learn his name. Pep, 5'6", maybe 5'7", a light-skinned Haitian-American elfin slave to inspiration and magic, betrothed to believing art and brotherhood, the kind you die for, is all there ever was. Sometime one headstone might as well be an exponent. Pep lived and created at 560 State Street in the felt shadow of the old train yard, in a hangar-walled duplex, Home Pep made his way, his genius a reflex already. He reconfigured a new manhood, contravent to circumstance, contravent to the wind. Wry smile, squinted eyes, squared north, and transfixed to that vaulted ceiling. A brewery of blunt lit red lips kissed the bodies and bodies of work used to dress those walls. All that color and dark and light hung high on Heineken and promise. Remember, the artist formerly known, a stranger, a handyman for this underground. The promenade of women auditioning to be his muse. Most I remember by their giggles and by the way each had taken their shoes off by the front door. Men inherit no language for loss. It's been years. Getting over it never quite prevails as an option. Pep was a laugh hoisted to a wingspan that did cause us to believe as much as we could feel. We were men made ready to take over the world. Waning Crescent. Genius and fame do not ship the same. Sometimes one begets the other. Sometimes they kiss and crush each other into pieces. Most times, they simply glide past, unrequited, if only to flirt and wave like happy gales in the night on their way home, who knows where. Remember Pep, remember Zook too. Craig Davis was a master of ceremonies, if there ever was one. Brothers, consummate artists, friends, gone too soon. Zook's Going Home service, December 19th, 2013, at Lawrence Woodward Funeral Home. Entezaki, our queen, with whom Zook was collaborating at the time of his death, rolled in by her longtime assistant on her wheelchair throne, come to pay herself homage, say her goodbye to one of our kings. I wept then. I weep now. Some phrases form rainbows before they are words. Pep, zook, bang, zoom, to the moon, Alice, to the moon. Each phase, a moment. Each moment, a breath inside a name. Insert yours here. Black holes win in the end. Brooklyn will reconvene its universe of stars. New moon, name, insert yours here. How's everybody? Thank you. Um, I am going to read autocorrect on 125. Autocorrect is a contrapuntal poem. So I don't know if y'all can see. Well, you can't see it. It's two columns. So you can read the poem across the two columns line by line as the one poem. You can read the left column as its own poem, the right column as its own poem, and the left and right column on top of each other as its own poem. But this is called autocorrect. Dear John, Revelations 1:14 through 15. When you think of Black men, you do not think of me. It is as if a cotton field blooms, a black hole, on a twin's heart. A gray, brackish flood thickens into clots. Fluidity loses all its water. Gay, bi, trans, pixel over into burlap rations. Kissed tongue swallows. A blackened church autocorrects. A middle passage. The taste of God in our throat. In that field where we bent so well, no memory of us, folded at the neck, dust settles the ash and urn of afterthoughts inside black and white photographs. Omissions fill up with rainbows, shadows grow tender touch. Ain't a black man my namesake too? On this threshing floor, oh, how we bowed. Oh, how we did not tear, hot and sun-oiled through and through, exhausted not the finding of you in our private place. Passion tends to its own vices. We rehearsed our coal hot mine. Hard wood infused a burning bush, builds a special kind of chapel in these slave quarters. Lovers pass for kin. A love story records unwritten, unspeakable play, labors of love, burning. We would not come down from our cross on a Sunday morning. They dared not see where they dared not look on a Saturday night. Congregations worshiped as men. If only this Passover, saved from sin as the ark of the Lord come in, the city that never sleeps, half slave, half free. Brothers rock, feigning sleep, stood up in heaven, way Jesus loved John. We loved in that field. Manumissioned, dressed the dandy out of a burial ground, a misgendered groove on a blues, moaned us a second coming of the Son of Man, hair like wool, eyes like Gomorrah bronzed in a glowing furnace secrets. The throb of rushing waters floods a lover's mercy, our only baptism. I'm gonna do 1986, which other countries makes a wealthy appearance. This is called 1986, an elegy for our coldest war. It's written for a program that I was asked to write something for, which was commemorating gay men of African descent's 30th year anniversary and the legacy of Black gay men organizing in response to homophobia, racism, and the HIV/AIDS pandemic. Could be the ballroom was always our nuclear option. A rock, Scrabble, bunker, become a threshing floor. How we survived our coldest war. A mother, a father, an entire house full of babies, tucked into mangers woven out of street corner filament, limber enough to parent those of us born with and without parents, with and without islands, begat inside flags with and without stripes while reading for A-level exams, stretched astride empires and queens, too Black to be British, too gay to be queer, too poor for the crowns we deserve. Boys and girls born beyond signage, onto intersections above and below 42nd Street, where hormones traffic themselves, run all the rules, bust all the lights, come shot out of blackness, too Pentecostal for its own beneficence. Could be the ballroom scene laid its own bedrock atop an inference, as if by subterfuge, as if by stagecraft, as if by premonition, the way we live, the way we die, the way we transition in and out of space, in and out of time, in and out of academies and boarding schools, with and without degrees, in and out of dimension, the lives we all span is a performance. 1986, what a performance it was. In the year of our Lord, June 30th, 1986, adjudicating case 478, US 186, otherwise known as Bowers versus Hardwick, the Supreme Court upheld Georgia's sodomy laws in a 5-4 decision. This year, 1986, according to dissenting Justice Harry A. Blackmun, our nation's highest court became obsessively focused on homosexual activity. So happens the same year, 1986, A Midsummer Night's Dream is bequeathed to Reverend Charles Angel. A new faith begins its practice inside the living rooms of Black gay men, fagged, playing Russian roulette with their secrets. The waters break. Gay men of African descent is born. June 14th, 1986, Daniel Garrett freebases on a James Baldwin line. Our history is each other. And a group of Black gay men exhale enough pride inside a writer's workshop to inscribe themselves a new nation. Other countries write themselves out of a Black heart, collecting the flood-lit life force condensed inside Joseph's beam. In some ways, we all still live huddled, impatient, unrelented inside Joseph's hologram. If there's a cure for this, I don't want it, don't want it. October 1986, Craig Harris, Black, gay, living with AIDS and walking realness, grabs the mic from the San Francisco's health commissioner at the American Public Health Association's first AIDS workshop. Speaking for all of us, he proclaims, "I will be heard." Before Craig's mic drops, National Minority AIDS Council is born. Craig Harris, Paul Kawada, Gilles Girard, Suki Ports, Marie St-Cyr invite our colored selves to the ball because the rainbow was never enough. On this runway, Audre Lorde cries, "Dear Joe," and the tinny jukebox music comes up through the floor of our shoes. This runway is a battle. This runway is an extravaganza. Watch, listen, learn. This battle is and is not yours. The old way, the new way. Either way spells perseverance, crafted out of imaginary high school diplomas. The old way, the new way, either way spells perseverance out of nothing besides our poverty, our disease, our sex, our privilege, our death, our shame, a people, a culture, an art form. A wellspring is born. When lifespans splinter into foreshortened seasons, a phallus-engorged pandemic goes jackhammer and rogue. Sometimes God opens the second door. 1986 is a second door, a portal in time manned by the queens of the damned. A middle passage collects itself onto dry ground, and a Dodie River collapses alongside a New York City Nile. Shamans sing in and out of gender, in and out of place. Yoruba priests walk bizarre. When my brother fell, I cared not how rich he was, how Caribbean he was, how Ivy League his poison oak, how much southern fruit pickled his veins when my brother fell. I cared not how many Prospect Park trees bear witness to his lovemaking. I paid no attention to which butch queen voguing femme he was fucking in between in between bushes, or to how big, how thick, how heavy the thorns he let ride his back into heaven when my brother fell. Picked up his weapons and never questioned the category he walked, how much makeup he had on, or which labels she wore behind closed doors. I never questioned if his mama knew, if his daddy cared. I kept walking. Essex said, "There was no one lonelier than you, Joseph." 30 years later, we're not gonna do it that way this time. The ballroom collapses whole classes into nations. Every call gets a response. Every name, every category, every non-binary is an intention. A universal law makes its own rules, divines its own boundaries, causing legends to be born while Paris burns. Assault's saints and Willie's ninjas stand guard a whole river of boys, born without bones. Boys born without spoons, let alone silver. Bright boys, born on islands in between burrows that rupture beneath their salt water promise. Somehow the ballroom always knew why. Boys and girls born too fluid for homes need houses. Essex said, if we must die on the front line, don't let loneliness kill us. If there's a cure for this, I don't want it, don't want it. 1986 is a house song at morning mass, a breakbeat, a beatbox, a carol, a love song, a dirge, a Brooklyn Children's Museum born again inside a Donald Woods forest. 1986 is a GMAD, an NMAC, and a Dodie, a God-accented Ebonic surviving for Joseph, for Essex, for Donald, for Willie, for Assault Saint, for Craig Harris, for all us born survivors of the coldest war, with and with parents, born too gay, too queer for the crowns we deserve. Okay, I'm gonna read two more. Is that all right?
That's all right.
Yes.
I'm gonna read the title poem of the book, Everywhere Alien, and then I'm gonna read Cyborg Heaven. Everywhere Alien. I am unabridged. walk over me at your peril. Your fix broke free. I am an infinity imbibing time, an ancestor's scribe born without papers, aroused and wet. Whose liquidity am I? I am absolved of gender at orgasm. I engender billions of beings. iClouds are not safe deposit boxes. Google won't have me found. No cookies bear my namesake. No cookies bear my namesake. Nations stymie with a kiss. An empire's progeny infuse the pan sauces that survive. I am the black. Call the kettle just to say I love you and I think you're hot. How high is Colorado really? If they've only now discovered pot is the alchemy of the gods. Porridge is not a medicine, it is simply good for you. I and I is a divine prototype come up out of Africa. Consciousness is God's multiple personality disorder. We believe belief belies an antonym in lived language. The absence of belief comprises death, bereaved of its metaphysical powers, dead as in the end of dying. Metaphor is magic. Insists illusions beget quantum mechanics. Even now, follow me at, I have already been all the things I wished I had never been. This, the very definition of ambition, to make yourself a movement. Sans desire, time is a stretched out, flaccid thing. Drama is aboriginally human. Desire matters our universe. At our absolute best, we are all self-starters, self-inflicted victims of arson. Watch us burn. We are flaming flames, unflappable as the wind. The wind is a pusher, man. Top and bottom are equivalent dimensions. All equilibriums spell boring over and over again. Yes, we are nomad and normal as sense, our universe thick with desire, replete with the darkest matter. We are everywhere, alien, except in our own skin. One more, or is it too much? Is it too much, Kevin? Is it too much?
More.
It's never too much.
What's that?
It's never too much.
Ah! Okay, Cyborg Heaven.
Was that a Luther reference?
Hey, George. I can really hear folks. Lord God, I don't know what we're gonna do. Okay. How might a poem ever be entered if one insists on living outside of it? As if truth ever exchanges from its confession, shut off, attenuated, severed even, from the silence, hoping for a quiet burial of its secrets inside the belly of a thing is a body. Touch it. The crushed, fraught grape, the burst skin of an opened chalice, the ferment lust routed towards its own becoming a swallowed, a delectable, and abusable thing. plain as evidence how hickeys come first, leave secondhand, mapping in an instant the truancy of the desired and its bruised consequence. The possessed remind of their dispossession, the lover, the scorned, incite the tangled algorithms to their dangled non-local dance of the survived. Touch me here. COVID-19, 80s, come HIV, 2020, unspell the undercount of the infected and the unbelieved. A mirror referees the chupacabra apart from its chimeric twin, still haunting the old AIDS mausoleum, toggling between pixel and time, betwixt Java and script. New worlds project into and out of the digital forest where screens scream now, as much for the troll as the corona, the drone, the android, the Teletubby, as much as the quarantine. Here in cyborg heaven where we are all only fans of the fat, the femme, the nanosex, the trans, the zaddy, the cougar, the beer, the intersex, and the polyamorous, the non-binary codes of the sapiosaint, pan the bisexual algorithms of the marooned. Here, where apples and operating systems bear less and less fruit, more and more seeds spill into isolate and heartache. Pills pop, crystals smoke, the anxious and the paranoid into novel forms of forgiveness, and the unforgiven. Everyone hides behind an Instagram scene. Pandemics push portals onto the outcast fringe of the human condition. Shame and stigma snag right where the shunned escape, battered and bruised into their ennui underground. Every box signals a beginning of a turn, a twist, an impulse, a tremor, an anguish, a horned head, a taut arm, a wetted hand. Whistle the opened organ, call to task the hardening fruit of the willing and the wild. The object is to get inside, beside, beneath it, get into it, test how the right entrance can make as much noise as the entered. Touch, 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 touch it. Every crevice, every ending objects to nothing. Zoom in, magnify how salt pearl border exudes for you behind the glass, in front the screen, an opened ear. Don't it move you into your want? Emulsify, trigger, reflex, unfold before intent attends to any theory of mind. Touch, touch, touch me, please. I am it, and it is not me. Blood belongs and unbelongs to the viral. The virile, the vile, the live stream clings and unclings to the breathy contour of its own ecstatic perdition. Tunnels, tides, tunes swell their miasmas into the surrounded ear. Our insides bear the implicit need to be touched, to be held, to be nursed by the enveloped suck of hot tongue and recycled wind. Touch, touch, touch me, please. The boxed, the unboxed, the bruised, the belonged, the looked over, the overlooked, the puddle, the oasis, the pond, the breeding ground for the succumbed, the spawned, the required, the acquired, the healed, the traumatized, the fixed, the fixated, the errand boy, the homing pigeon, the prodigal, and the returned. We are what else besides a meeting ground? Heart body, fluid, mind, touch me please, where mask nor rubber can withstand the cover of this blood-born anointing laced to my sins, my heart, my obsessions, my endeavors, my crimes, my longings, receive and down and pressed into beings like me, touch us, please. The infected, affected, the unadorned, and the adored. Here, every transgression belies the confectioned underbelly to every sacral push and insists we hold on and hold out for something, anything, holy, warmed, and divine.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Kev, I don't know what to do because I really cannot hear you guys. I may have to try to log in on my laptop.
Okay. Let me just see if I
can hear you, but barely. I'm gonna try to log in on my laptop and see if that helps.
Okay.
Brad, while you're doing that, I was asking Kevin if you're gonna have books for sale. Can you hear me say that? He didn't hear me for say that. Because at least he would have looked up for it and heard the word sale.
Yes, he would have.
Everybody can hear money.
I was like, that word would have gotten.
Oh, I love that. That's the beginning of a poem. Everybody can hear money.
Progress.
So Brad, is that any better?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm gonna click off on.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we just had a joke at your expense. Brad, I don't know if you can see me. This is George. I was asking Kevin when you started if there was going to be books for sale, so he told me to check in with you. And while you were fixing our things up, I said, let me take a test and see if you want to have books for sale. And everybody heard me except you. So so someone made a suggestion that that should be a beginning of a poem. Everybody hears money. So are you going to have books for sale, or do you need? I didn't send you my. Are you send me your Cash App? Tell me how we do this.
I'm gonna send you a link to McNally Jackson books or yeah, hold on 1 second.
You can put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've given your book away 4 times. I don't have a copy myself.
Wow, that's cool.
So I've been giving it away since it came out. So I need a copy for me.
Yes.
If you give away 4, you get the 5th one free.
Yes. I will reach out to me separately. This one person. No, I need people to buy this book, okay?
What? I've known you since you were a baby. No, let me stop. No, I always support you, so you know that's no problem.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy my copies. You need the money, the world needs the book, so it all works out for me.
Thank you. Let me see where this link is. McNally Jackson is oh my God. Let me see. Is carrying the book in their bookstores. So that there's a store on okay, here it is.
And there was a question: are the books signed?
The ones in McNally Jackson are signed, but I don't know how that works if you order online. If you order online, I don't know if they're sending. I imagine they're not sending signed copies online. But if you are in New York If you stop by Soho or the Brooklyn one in the old Abbey Square Mall. And it should be at Rockefeller Center too, but I haven't signed those yet.
How do I get you to sign a book to me?
George, we need to just go to lunch, okay?
As Troy says, I don't mind paying for it, but I need a Brad book.
Yes, yes.
And I'll meet you in the cold, and I don't do winter.
The link is in the chat.
Okay.
Is it? I don't
Yes,
see
I
it.
do.
Okay, here it is.
Yep,
Go ahead.
got it.
I'm just gonna.
McNally Jackson. Okay.
Are there questions or comments for Brad Walrond, poet of the hour?
Brad, can you talk about, you mentioned one of the themes is the desire of gravity. Can you, or the gravity of desire, can you elaborate on that a little bit, how that theme works in the poems?
I'm going to reference Samuel Delaney. I'm not going to say where I'm referencing because I don't want to misspeak the context, but there's an essay he wrote specifically about the old New York City and the
His Times Square essay, you mean? That
yeah,
book?
yes. And the way as a shortcut, the way horniness collapses so many barriers in society, in that in the porn theaters, in et cetera, in those spaces, anyone could be there. The financial executive, the construction worker, the minister, the trans woman, like, so like how those connections that would otherwise not happen are offered a meeting ground and a meeting place in the way, so it's an opportunity to democratize connections. I think for me, the way I moved through these spaces was compelled by desire for connection, desire for to be loved, to be touched. And that for me is what I mean by the way in which gravity, the way desire functions as this like invisible cord calling us together.
And he laments how the Disneyfication of Times Square, a lot of people got all of their myriad needs met in the old Times Square. The businessman coming in from Kansas who's gay and has no agency where he lives can do everything he needs to and his business meetings and all of this. So I totally understand what you mean there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I really like the way, before you went to the poem, you also gave some context from the impetus of the poem, because gay people, for me, it set the time and the mood and the things that were going on in the world, so that it set it up for me. I had to come off of camera for a minute because I got overwhelmed with the poem about 1986, because I just took myself back to that time, and between the people and the names and what has happened since then, it catapults you in a way that a lot of just reading the poem without that timeline doesn't always happen. So I appreciated that.
Thank you.
Brad, can you talk about how this volume came together and kind of
out of grand delusion. Life-wise, so I had a burgeoning career as a poet in the 90s, and at some point I kind of got disillusioned. But I happened into HIV prevention by virtue of a friend from Long Island who he had gotten a job at Minority Task Force on AIDS. And so he was on Christopher Street doing outreach, and we bumped up, and he was like, you looking for work? And I wasn't looking for work at the time, but then he mentioned the salary, and I was like, what? What's going on over there? So
Everybody hears money.
that's how I ended up as health educator at Minority Task Force on AIDS. And within, I would say, a year and a half or so, I ended up I was assistant coordinator, and then I was director of education. So I then had a career in HIV/AIDS prevention, and then got disillusioned to some degree there. Then I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree college, was in a PhD program, and then I got depressed. And then I went to cooking school, and then I was cooking in New York City kitchens for a good 4 or 5 years. I came back to my work, and the impetus was a friend from the scene, the person I mentioned in the Barclays poem, Zook. He died suddenly. Zook is a seminal artist, poet, MC, musician, singer, playwright, and he died suddenly. And I call that time the portal for me. It was like I just got pushed off of my shelf. And I knew that I would be creating, but 6 months post, nothing. But then I got really depressed again and ran to my doctor for some medicine, and started treating my anxiety as well. And then the floodgates opened. So I was home for 2 or 3 years writing. And that's where this work is birthed out of. It is for me coming back to the domain where I don't need to leave anything behind. Everything is present and accounted for. And while certainly mental health and major depression is a part of my life sphere, I was never suicidal, but I'm also rather certain that this coming back saved my life. Yeah.
And can you talk a bit? I know you as a poet. I know we run in a few common circles. I did not know you as the performer that I've seen since the book has come out. Was that, I mean, it seems like clearly that's a planned aspect of this work. It's not just words on a page. It's singing, it's dancing, it's a celebration. Can you talk about the evolution of that part of Everywhere Alien?
So in finding my poetic voice in the milieu of the New Black Arts movement, it's like in part an inheritance of the Black arts tradition. And so Ntozake Sange, Amiri Baraka, et al. And And I was on the first compilation, spoken word compilation album that came out in the 90s out of that space. So The Last Poets is on there, Saul Williams is on there, I'm on there. So for me, my voice has always been a full-bodied enterprise. And so I call on all those things as I'm working, and yeah. Can't hear you, George.
And if you've never seen Brad on the house music dance floor, he's in a trance. And you almost don't know him anymore for like the next 2 hours because the music just takes him to a whole nother place. He always has to bring a change of clothes because he's drenched. But he's just transformed and the music just takes him. So for me, listening to him read and him going into song titles or the passages, it reminds me of seeing him in those spaces where he just gets lifted.
And
Partial, but he's lifted.
I met James Reynolds, if you know James,
Yes.
on one of these dance floors, and and then he saw me outside, and he was like, "Your skin is beat." He thought he thought that I wore makeup. Which I woke up like this, though. But he genuinely thought that I was on substances. And shaming no one, I was never on substances.
You didn't need that. You didn't need that.
Yeah.
The music took you away, and I only brought it up because when Troy mentioned the performance part, knowing you in one room and then seeing you in those rooms, they were separate but equal to who you were.
Yeah.
So you're like Barbara Tucker's I Get Lifted. That's you. That's you.
Yes. And that is like this work has been excavation. You pick up wherever you left off. And there's so much music and culture in the work because that is the actual domain. And the way in which you the way culture is transmuted in and through Black bodies, it's utter dimensional. And that is, I think, fundamentally my approach to my work, is drawing on all those things.
Other questions or comments?
Hey all, my name's Trevor Hauser. It's my first time in this group. I'm hi Brad. I'm on Robert's email list, and I saw that Brad, who was one of my closest friends at City College, was doing a reading, and so I'm honored to be allowed to join you guys and to hear Brad read. Brad, I love you so much. It's so beautiful hearing you read today, and I love your book.
Trevor, you just made me speechless. It's good to see.
What are you working on now?
What's that?
What are you working on now?
So many things. They have me running this globe. I don't know what to do. God damn. My book tour has been fairly wonderful. I started in Harlem, went to Detroit, came back to Harlem. Then I was in Paris at the La Maison Baldwin Centennial Festival. and I had a book reading in Amsterdam with Dark Matter Collective. Then I came back and went to Furious Flower. Furious Flower is like every 10 years at James Madison University, it's a Black poet mecca planet. So being in that mix and presenting my work there, and then I've been continuing to do gigs. The Atlantic published I Get Lifted 2 days before pub date. So some days I feel very fabulous. I'm out here. I have some gigs coming up at Poetry House, at Brooklyn Poets, reading series, and I pretty much work for HarperCollins now. Okay.
Can you talk about how that connection came about? Do you have an agent? Is that what happened? How you got there?
It is a mix. So Jessica Care Moore, who is my peer, who she won the Apollo 5 times in a row and launched her global 30-year career in poems. And she's my very, very dear friend. As an aside, the way mental illness changes your thoughts. So when I came back, I call the time that I started writing again as me coming back to the world. That's literally how it feels. And she was part of an event at the Schomburg, so that was our first time seeing each other. And I'm talking to her like I'm a fan. And at some point she was like, Brad, why are you acting so weird? It's like I forgot that this is my very, very dear friend. And so she has been supporting this work the entire way. The intention was for her to publish it on More Black Press, which is her press. And along the way, she published her own books through More Black Press. But in 2020 is when she published her first book on a major press. So it was with HarperCollins. So there's that space. Then separately, my agent Regina Brooks, when I came back to the world, some place I touched base with her, and so she was kind of shepherding the development of the work along the way too. Those two people, Regina and Jess, they're the folks who are part of the new imprint with Amistad Books, HarperCollins. So it's More Black Press and Amistad, HarperCollins. So that's how I got here.
A journey.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any kind of final thoughts you want to leave with us before Lynn closes out?
What dates that you'll be performing in the city?
What's that?
Any dates you're performing here in the city?
Yes, February 21st at Brooklyn Poets. February 18th at the Poet House. That is an event with 4 other poets. It's honoring Audre Lorde's 100th birthday. So we'll be centering some of her work and some of our own.
That's Ragos.
I have
I'm sorry, where's the Poet's House?
the Poet's House is by the World Trade Center. It's like on the river down there. But you can find everything on Instagram.
Okay.
And I have a website, but I haven't been populating all the engagements. But Instagram is a great place, and Facebook, to to catch me. I have a gig with my music on Wednesday, the 11th. It's in Bushwick. I don't know the name of the place. But it's like a small tricked out performance venue, and it's going to be live streamed with some musical artists and stuff. So that's there. I'll be but this is farther off. I believe it's May at Lincoln Center Black Poetry Festival. So I'll be doing something there.
You have a question in the chat.
Can someone read it? How are you expressing?
Brad, how are you how are you specifically preparing for going forward after Monday, if at all? That's from Reggie Miller.
Reggie. Love you. So I'm of several minds. If anyone knows me, I've always been steeped in politics and all of that. My major is in political science, so I've lived a life immersed in that space. I feel like I have a certain clarity on what is with us. And there's a way in which we have entered a domain that most of us are unfamiliar with in the past 50, 60 years. And so there's a way in which I cannot consume all of that the way I have been accustomed. I liken it to you have a pathological narcissist who can do nothing but be himself, right? And so I can't be watching every day peaked on the next crazy thing. So part of my posture is more distant than I would ordinarily, and also recognizing that I have a voice, I have a platform, and I need to be true to it first, such that whatever someone else is doing is not the thing that is pushing what my work is or what I need to put out into the world. Not that it's not influenced by, but I can't live in that. I can't see that to the madness. Resistance certainly is not an option, meaning it is the space from which I have always lived. I think what resistance comes to mean here is needs to look very different. I can't say that I have an answer to that, but I think that's the kind of germs that I'm interested in, so that I have a way of offering work that matches the moment.
Thank you so much, Brad Walrond.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Brad.
The book,
Thank you.
Everywhere Alien.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud
I
and
want
clear.
to thank you, Brad, for your clarity and for bringing all the dimensions that we got a little glimpse of today to us. We do need your voice. We do need your resistance. We need to keep focused on just how to make our lives more meaningful going forward. And you are on the vanguard of that. I'd like to thank everyone who turned out today to this other country's outright invite. It was a great experience for me, and I apologize for my camera being on the fritz. So it's a little funny for me staring at my face, my picture here. And so I'd like to also remind us that the other countries workshop is alive and well here in 2025. You can get a lot of information about us on our Facebook page, and we've got some plans for 2025. Maybe Kevin and or Robert would like to speak to some of those plans before we finally close out for today.
Sure. Over the last year or so, we've revived the face-to-face open readings around the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And so we plan to continue to do that. So our next, we'll be doing an event with the summer solstice. We haven't identified the location yet. There is a larger, possibly symposium that we're in conversation with others about holding sometime in 2024, focusing on Black queer writing. Ideally, it'd be a day or maybe a day and a half, possibly to include a actual writing workshop. And we've been talking about it for a few months, but we hope to have that more details later. Actually, in the next couple months, we should have more details.
Robert, are you on? Did you want to say something? If not, I want to wish all of us a happy rest of the day and a happy rest of this year. I hope that we have gotten off to a great start with the energy that Brad has given us. And I hope this can be a platform for outreach. If you know Black queer men who are interested in writing, turn them on to other countries. Have them go to our Facebook page where there's all the information there to hook up for the workshop. On that note, I'd like to say thank you and farewell.
Thank you.